Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen to the Ask Brien Radio Show on KHTS and 1220 AM, 98.1 FM. Whoa. Okay, everyone. Well, each week, this is the Ask Brien Radio Show, spelled AskBrien, also located at askbrien.com if you want to go to the website and find out any information. We've been doing this show now for over 5.5 years. And each week we try to teach people something about business. Either we'll have a startup company where they can show you how they went from zero to gazillion dollars, or we have somebody that'll teach something about a specific business subject. Now today, our normal engineer is unavailable today, and we have the big cheese, the big whopper, the big and only Andrew.
Hey, good to be back. Glad to be back. Woohoo! Original engineer of the Ask Brien Show.
Yeah, Coach Tunic is going like, what?
Right? Flashback.
Flashback, yeah. And I didn't even do anything. Anyway, no drinking from me. But each week, we always try to explain to people why we spell Brien with an E. Because Brien is spelled B-R-I-A-N or B-R-Y-A-N. Very few people spell Brien with an E. Of course, there's a lot of people in Ireland named O'Brien, and they're all spelling their names O-B-R-I-E-N, so they'd have the E. But we're not named after an Irish pub. We do have a lot of interest, though, in pubs. But without any further ado, we want to ask Mr. Andrew, what on earth do we use the letters E for Ask Brien? What do they stand for?
There's a lot of words out there.
So let's go over one at a time.
Education. That's a big one.
So why do we have education?
Because we need to learn things.
Because each episode we try to teach people something about business. Okay?
That's right, guys. Ask the experts.
That's correct.
Because why? They have experience.
Whoa. Now he's combining experts and experience. Now,
look at that.
You do have to have experience to be an expert, but there are some unicorns out there that may not have a lot of experience that we will allow them to become an expert.
And is it because they excelled in their field very early?
Well, they're excellent, like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But not everyone is that excellent. But they do have excellence, and they have excellent skills and excellent background to assist us.
Right. And another one, you can't just be a bump on the log. You have to be excited.
And enthusiasm! Wow, where did that come from?
Oh, Lord, I thought you had given that up.
Lent is over.
Right, we're back to it.
That was just for Lent. I gave that up. All right. What other reasons why we would use the letter E?
Well, we hit them, but the most important of all, you can't do this without the engineer. That's me.
Well, that's one of them, but we are, like Grease Lightning, we are...
electrifying.
Woo! My favorite.
From Grease Lightning.
Oh, my.
Is that all the E's you got?
That's all these I got.
All right. Well, without any further ado, and that's spelled A-D-I-E-U, and the reason why I like it is it's all vowels except for the D. But without any further ado, we do have a good guest on today, as we do each week. We have our co-host, Traci. Traci, say hello.
Woohoo! Hello, everybody. So excited to be here, as always.
All right. Sounds like the wind.
Yes. I think our guest microphone has a little extra wind sound effect with it today.
Well, you shouldn't be on the sailboat next time. Anyway, and then we have our guest today, and his name is Robin. Robin, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
And you walk around with Batman, right?
I do, but, Robin is a very important part of that group.
Well, obviously, Batman couldn't do anything.
Absolutely.
So, Robin, let's go over a little bit about your background. So, and I don't need from when you were in ninth grade, but you do have a very interesting background in finance. So, you had you went to college, and where are you from, by the way? Because you have an interesting accent. I never heard that before.
Yep. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa.
Wow.
So I came here 20 years ago when I was 35, and had an opportunity to join a CPA firm in Los Angeles. So they sponsored me to come and work here. So it was an opportunity, an adventure, and I worked for them for 3.5 years. And thereafter, I took a position as a controller, CFO for a consumer products company called Elixir Tonics and Teas. And they made herbal tonics. They had a storefront in Melrose, and they distributed these tonics throughout the U.S. And they're owned by a listed company in Singapore called Yang Sang. And a couple of years later, Yang Sang sold that company to a private company. So my position got eliminated, but I continued consulting to them. And while I was looking for some new opportunities, I got a lot of consulting jobs, implementing and supporting business management software, which I had a lot of experience in. So I'm a CPA. I have an MBA from Cape Town, and my background is in accounting and software consulting. So I was doing a lot of consulting, implementing business management software, and that just kept getting more projects, and that kept growing. So I started looking for a job. I got an office. I employed someone, and that it's continued to grow. But one of the things that we do in that company, we also do outsourced bookkeeping and accounting. And a few years ago, we took on a client called Albany Farms, and that company has just grown and grown. And I took on a position as CFO for that company, and so that company is now poised for huge growth. And so far, it's been a lot of fun.
So before we get into more crazy questioning, I do have one question. So
Yeah.
you're in South Africa, and you decide you want to come to America. And how do you get somebody to sponsor you?
Well, you travel and you visit the country and you visit your friends, and you really love the place. And a friend says, I have some companies. They were looking for accountants in South Africa. The CPA firms at that time, they used to come to South Africa to recruit. For some reason, they hold South African accountants in high regard. But anyway, so a friend of mine introduced me to the CPA firm, and they offered me a position to work there. And I didn't have any commitments in South Africa, and it seemed like a great opportunity and a new adventure, and that's how that happened.
Well, that's great. Give me what are the differences between the differences between living there in South Africa and living here? Not business, not in any manner other than business wise. I mean, is the accounting systems and everything similar, or are there any differences?
Well, South Africa, accounting standards, it's based on the international standards. So South Africa follows European standards very closely. And it's sort of, American standards are very prescriptive. There's almost a standard for every single type of law. Obviously, South Africa is less developed, so the U.S. is a lot more developed, much more competitive because it's a lot more developed. In South Africa, there's a lot more risk, so margins are greater, but, with higher margins, higher returns as well. And then the U.S., I think, is a very liquid market. Things happen very quickly. In South Africa, maybe things don't happen at the same pace.
Well, what I do remember from my accounting class was GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. Yeah. That's what I remember. But so you came over to America. Now you said business management software. What are you referring to when you say business management software? Because you started a company that works with that area. What does that mean?
Yeah. So there's a term called ERP software, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And it's kind of a generic term for accounting-based software, but it's more than accounting. It's everything in your business. So it's purchasing, sales, inventory management, HR. So these softwares pull everything together. It's one database, and it gives you kind of a snapshot of your whole company, intelligent reporting, dashboards. So if you think of very small businesses, when a small business starts, they usually buy QuickBooks. Everybody knows QuickBooks. And then it's the same concept as QuickBooks, but it's got a lot more bells and whistles and a lot more features and functions that everybody in the company, whatever their role is, they can record the transactions in the software.
So,
yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So we've become a reseller for Sage software. So the softwares we sell in TimeHack Business Systems called Sage 100 and Sage Intact. And I would say that's targeted to small, medium-sized companies. Typically, the clients are anywhere from 5 million to 500 million. And the theme usually when companies are upgrading, they usually have something like QuickBooks, and they're growing and growing, and it's getting harder for the business owner to manage all that data or remember all that data. So they sort of, they need to put structures in place, people in place, systems in place, and so that's kind of when you're trying to take that business to the next level, that's the time to upgrade to the type of software that we sell. And then on the very large enterprise, you have softwares like SAP, Oracle. So we're somewhere in the middle between large enterprise and, mom and pop.
So I don't know if you've been moving your head or whatever, just to let you know, there is some little gap in some of that speaking. So I just want to let you know as we continue the interview, when I'm a little bit off. So just try to keep on exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what 3 rules to a business person would you tell them about finance? What are obviously cash flow is very important, right? But what are the 3 most important things that you can tell a business owner regarding finance and cash, etc.?
Well, where we are today in the technology that's available, I would say make sure you have a good software to run your business, because the softwares are so good today that you can get a complete handle and snapshot of your business. You can see your cash flow, you can see your inventory at a glance, you can understand what items are slow moving. You can get so much information if you're entering all the data and you have the right software in place. And if you don't, then you're going to lose out to your competitors, because everybody's taking advantage of good software. So I would say, to manage your cash flow, to manage your inventory, looking at your P&L, you don't have to spend hours and hours trying to collate all that data. If you have the right software in place, you can get it all real time. So for me, software is the most important thing to get all of that together.
And what's the second and third?
Second would be managing cash flow. You want to have budgets and forecasts. You want to keep those updated and maintained. See that you're on track, that you're not spending above. Make sure you reconcile your bank. It's amazing, how many smaller businesses forget about reconciling their bank. There's so much fraud today. So, reconcile your bank. You'll get a good understanding of, if everything's okay in your bank and your credit card, and that'll help you with your cash flow, understanding where you're at. And
is there any software?
Make sure you're. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there any software that can do that for you? For instance, can I just download my bank statement and it'll check things out that are and give me red lights or alerts or something, or do I have to actually manually check everything?
That's a great question. So, a lot of the software can do that. They have what you call bank feeds. So it can automatically integrate with your bank, and it pulls data from your bank, and it matches to the transactions in your accounting software. And, where there's not a perfect match, it'll show you, or where there's an issue, it'll show you. So there's very little work you have to do now to reconcile your bank. It's 90% of it is done for you. Also, with the software, there's a lot of AI that they're starting to build in the software, alerts. So, if you post a journal entry to, if you credit some account that doesn't normally have a credit is unusual, you can get an alert about that. And you can get an alert on inventory, values if they're dropping. So, a lot of these softwares now, not sort of at the small end, but moving towards small, medium, they provide all those type of alerts.
And will that integrate with, so for instance, some of our listeners use Amazon, they're selling products and services, or companies like that. Is there any integration that they can do with that, or are they?
Absolutely.
So how does that work?
Yep. So, when you purchase software, you purchase the core system, you buy modules, and then you can purchase additional integrations. We're kind of not at that point where you can just buy one thing and everything plugs in. So you buy the base software, and then you buy all those integrations. And most of the software vendors have a marketplace, and you can go into that marketplace and purchase different integrations. So you can purchase an integration to Amazon, Shopify, all these amazing options. So you can import your orders from Amazon by purchasing an integration.
Well, that sounds great. What is the third and final issue? We went over two of them already.
Yeah.
What's the last?
Most
important.
I would say keep good internal controls in your company. And I know it's difficult in a smaller company because you don't always have the resources, but one way you can do that is make sure you separate duties within your company. So you don't want the same person opening the mail and depositing the checks. So just separate the functions within the company, just just make people accountable.
So
that'll help you keep security. And if you have any proprietary technology, make sure you patent it.
So, well, that's a very interesting question. So, how do you know? How does a business owner say, "Hey, my accountant is embezzling money"? I mean, how do they know?
Well, the best way to find that out is to reconcile your bank. So if you're reconciling your bank and there are any anomalies, you will find that out. But you're right. If you have one person who's managing the full function of cash management, it actually can be very difficult. It's not easy. I mean, I've seen, it can happen that you can have an audit and they might not pick it up. So, but the first thing that an auditor should do is audit the internal controls. So if you have weaknesses in your internal controls, that they will identify. So they might not pick it up in a bank reconciliation, but if there's weaknesses in the way in your procedures and the way you're processing, that should get alerted.
What about
just the one other thing that's really important? If you have cloud software or logging into a bank, something like two-factor authentication, make sure you enable that. That's backups. Obviously, that's another thing. I've come across companies that didn't have a backup. So make sure you're backing up your data, and you have security when you're accessing critical information. Today, it's painful, but so important to have in place.
Well, I was going to ask you, we only have about 30 seconds before we take a break, but obviously, would you consider password and passwords to be internal control or external, or what?
That's an internal control. I mean, you may have, you'll have an IT person or an IT company managing that for you, and whether they're internal or external, that doesn't really matter. But It's a policy and a procedure that's internal to your company that you should have in place.
Well, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM radio in beautiful Newhall, California, home to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Andrew likes that, right?
That's right. You can listen to him here on KHTS.
And when you're a Dodger fan, you don't have to be blue because the Dodgers are always winning.
That's right. Oh, I like what you did there. I'm gonna use that. Definitely.
Don't forget. So our co-host Tracy had a few questions to ask Robin. I have some more. So Robin, you're not off the hook. I'll be coming back to you for cross-examination by the attorney very shortly. But
oh my gosh. Well, so I'm gonna hold off on my questions about the importance of patents. I'll let you take that one, attorney. But I'm going to start with.
I'm only going to do the criminal aspects of patent, and then I'll be taking up with Tracy. But go ahead.
I would like to start with, when an entrepreneur is very first starting out, I think we always talk a lot about how important it is to build a good foundation to scale the business. And one of those things that we always recommend is that they set their financial health foundation up right from the start. Can you talk through some steps around the best ways to do that? For example, having a separate bank account, having an LLC or an S Corp, just really how, if an entrepreneur was getting ready to start a business, what is the best way to set them up for the most, for financial health and a good financial foundation?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good idea to, separate yourself individually from the corporation. So, you want to, there's different type of entities. There's a C corporation which is more appropriate for larger companies where you have shares, but much more expensive to manage. And then there's, S corporation and LLC corporations that are smaller type of corporations, less expensive, less onerous, less compliance. So when you're starting up, those are probably the type of corporations you want to look at: S corporation, LLC. And then if you're a partnership, if you want to look at starting up a partnership, if you're a CPA firm with many different partners, partnership will become more appropriate. But absolutely, you want to have a separate bank account and separate, the entity from yourself individually, because there's also liability. So you don't want to be, if you're operating in your own name, then, you're liable. So it's good to keep liability separate from yourself in the corporation.
And outside of the liability, too, how about the actual cash flow in terms of having a separate business account versus commingling with personal and business finances?
Very, very important, because, a lot of small businesses, they don't separate that. And then it becomes really difficult. If you're trying to do a merger or if you're trying to sell your company and you haven't kept that separate, it then does become very difficult to try and see what's what. But and also for tax purposes, when you're incurring expenses in your entity, you're more likely, you can deduct those for tax reasons, whereas expenses in your personal, those aren't deductible. But so definitely want to have those separate. You want to have a separate credit card, separate bank account for your business, and if you do make transfers between the business and personal, you should record those. And you have special transaction types to do those recordings where you can record the due to from. So at any time you should know what the business owes you personally and what you are might owe the business. So you definitely want to keep track of those transaction types, and it becomes very, very important, as I said, if you're ever going to merge or sell your company, you want to have those numbers 100% correct.
And with the pandemic creating a situation where a lot of people started working from home, I've always heard that it's a bit of a dicey situation to try to write off a portion of your home office per se. But has that become an easier thing to do now that there's a larger percentage of people who are working remotely or working out of their homes? And if so, what is the best way is there a formula of how people can look at their home office expenses?
That's a great question. So I don't know yet. So we've only just submitted the 2021 tax returns. We'll have to see. But sometimes people are very hesitant to record home office expenses because there's certain areas that will flag the IRS, and the home office expense is one of those things. So they have their criteria to decide on whether to audit a company or to make inquiries. Office expenses is one of those areas. So I know a lot of people will shy away from that, but I don't know yet. I would imagine that they are going to have a lot of tax returns with home office expenses. Given the trend. I mean, that trend is still very much in play.
Right, but probably going to continue that way.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead,
so. I was going to say that, the one thing that was interesting, during the pandemic, the thing that was, for us, it was such an incredibly busy time getting all our clients and a lot of other clients into the cloud. So, suddenly everybody wanted to have software and they wanted to have their whole business accessible in the cloud. So there was a huge migration of companies, that may have been, they were working in the office, took all their software and, all their applications into the cloud. But it is amazing, the technology, because the technology is such an enabler, because now you can work from anywhere.
Exactly,
your emails in the cloud, software's in the cloud, banking, everything.
Right. I mean, our company produces podcasts, and we do it virtually with engineers in studios, and people can record from anywhere in the world, so they don't even have to be limited to going into a physical studio anymore. It's amazing what technology has done for businesses. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one other thing about the tax return, obviously, you should always make sure your tax return is correct, then you don't have to worry about anything. But, when you are doing your tax return, just look at prior years, look at the last year and maybe the year before, and see where, just see that there's consistency, and if there's not consistency, just make sure you're able to justify it. Because that's how the IRS select returns to audit. They will look for certain anomalies. If cost of goods sold is usually a certain percentage of revenue and it kind of increases dramatically, they're going to think, well, what's going on? Are you suddenly trying to put through additional expenses? So, have a look at your tax return across prior years and see if there's consistency. And if there's not, that's okay. It could well be legitimate, and just make sure that, you can easily talk to it, justify it.
Well, and with the really, another result of the last, and I don't know how much of this has necessarily contributed to the pandemic as much as it is, I think, to your point, technology and other people's desire to work remotely and be flexible. But there's been a really large surge in people launching online course programs and teaching the teachers, so to speak. So how much of those types of things are they considered educational expenses? If you're an entrepreneur and you are taking online courses, are those considered tax deductions? How do those fall in terms of the criteria for being able to write off these programs that people are starting to teach online so frequently?
Yeah, no, absolutely. For, any type of education that you're doing to improve yourself and potentially improve the revenue in your company is considered continuing education. So, all companies have educational expenses and continuing education. So, yep, that's definitely would be considered a tax deduction. Generally, the tax rule is that if you are incurring expenses in order to further your revenue, and it's pretty wide, but if you're, any type of expense that you're incurring to improve your company and improve your revenue is considered a tax deduction. So if you're incurring, expenses, you may think it's personally to improve yourself, but if the underlying reason is really to improve the prospects of your company and, improve yourself so that you can further develop your company, that's definitely, you should put that expense through your company.
And is that the same now that live events are back in swing and people are now attending in-person conferences? Is the entire expense of going to an in-person conference, let's say for educational purposes, is that also, like even the travel and hotel and everything like that, is that all considered part of that package as well?
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. So, for example, we have a conference every year for Sage Software, and as resellers, we're required to attend those conferences. And that's 100% attributable to the business and growing our business and growing revenue. So that's all tax deductible from the travel, accommodation, cost of the conference, definitely. Now, if it's a conference that you're, attending for for personal and it's not related to your business, well, if it's a holiday vacation unrelated to your business, then it's not deductible. But if but if you're going to Orlando and you're incurring expense to 5 days is a conference and half a day you go to SeaWorld or so it's it's hard to know what's personal. I guess a very, very small portion for your pleasure would be personal. But the bulk,
I would think too. I mean, you would have to have a half day, just a mental break, to clear your mind from all of the conference information, so you can process it.
Absolutely.
Right as you stroll through the park.
Absolutely. Otherwise, how could you function for your business?
Continuing this conversation around remote working, because it's just such a hot topic right now. What do you recommend for entrepreneurs who might be more of moving into that digital nomad space? Do they keep a permanent address in one area and then, always resort back to that? Or, it just seems like there are a lot of people right now who are running businesses from RVs and they're running businesses from boats. And how does that play into in everything really around taxes and finances?
Yeah. Well, that's actually very interesting. I mean, for our website, we've always had the address, and we still do, of the different locations, but it's changing because, I mean, we used to go out and consult to clients a lot more, so that changed. Everything is online, and it doesn't really matter what the location is. So, what address you have on your website kind of becomes, it's really not that important. So I see less of that. Sometimes people do want to know where you are. It just gives them a level of comfort, and you might meet them once and then you never see them again. But more and more it's becoming less relevant. As far as taxes goes, I think where you are, the taxes are very complicated. It depends, for product. Sometimes it depends on the shipping location, the receiving location. So that does get quite complicated, especially with sales tax. But basically, where you're located for income tax purposes is and where your company is registered, and that's where you pay your income tax. But definitely, we'll have to see how that plays out. But the borders are disappearing, and customers are accessible, with internet marketing, and they're reachable everywhere. And I mean, if you need to meet them once, you can be on a plane and you can meet them and then support them, and it becomes irrelevant where they're based.
I know, it's just so interesting. It just feels like it's changing every minute, right?
It is. I mean, we used to have 4 people in our office, and then in the pandemic, they moved out. They started working from home, and they're still working from home. But in our business, I used to look at my watch, and if someone didn't make it in at 9 o'clock, they were quarter 9:15. I would think about it a little bit. Now I never think about it. So as long as they're doing a good job and the work gets done, that's most important. So it changed everything. And even in Albany Farms, I mean, this is it's a company that's poised for huge growth. We have a plant in South Dakota. The CEO is based in Pasadena. I'm in Los Angeles. People are scattered around the country, but it's easy enough to get together when we need to. And, if you've got the right software and the right tools, the right communication tools, video conferencing, I think you can almost be more effective. So everything's changed. I mean, definitely, I do think that there's a place to get together and to meet in person. But I mean, that's easy enough to do periodically. But yeah, things have changed. We have to see how that all, if it sticks.
We're going to be right back. We're going to be right back. KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM. Like no other station in the world! Wow. How did you do that, Andrew? Like you have a puppet or something?
Yeah, that's right. I've been practicing my ventriloquism.
Wow. And not only that, but it comes out of my mouth.
Right.
Wow.
Expert over here.
You should be on Ask Brien.
There you go.
You need to become an expert on Ask Brien. Ventriloquism. Okay, we're right back. So, Robin, some of the things we want to know. So you started this new company, and my understanding is you started it with, $0 and you made it pretty successful. So what are the 3 things that somebody can do to create a business when they've got nothing and they want to create a business?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're on the spot.
I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you, it's not easy, but you should do something that you really enjoy, because I know everyone says that, but it is so true. You can't think about the money. So, the money will come. And I know that when I was at that situation, I did have opportunities that paid a lot more money, but it wasn't quite what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with technology and finance and help small businesses grow. And so, do something is most important. Do something that you enjoy. Don't worry too much about the money. The money will come if you do something well. And so, I wanted to focus on doing something that I enjoyed, and that I could help, other companies. And that's always been a passion of mine, in my role as starting out in auditing, and whenever I worked, controller, CFO, I wanted to have technology that made my job easy, that I didn't have to do mundane type of redundant data entry. I wanted to automate as much as I could and have dashboards and analytics and tools that I could analyze a business. And so, that makes a CFO much more valuable in a company if you can have those tools to understand what's going on and interpret the business. Or even an owner, it gives you so much power. So that's something that I really enjoyed doing. And I guess as I got more consulting jobs and that grew, luckily that money that I got helped me finance, getting an office and then another employee and another employee. And so, I've been doing it for 15 years, and it's grown. I've taken great care of my customers. And, your customers, if you take good care of them, they become an extension of your sales team. So I've had a lot of great referrals from customers, and, just trying to do the best work I can always do. But I will say that if you shouldn't underestimate the power of marketing, because right now we have such great tools to do internet marketing that can help you to reach customers. But that does cost money. It's an investment, and we're doing a lot more of that now. But it is difficult when you don't have money.
It always takes money to make money.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you know the vision and you have conviction, and it's something you enjoy, you have, I would say go for it.
So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they reach you?
So our website is timacinc.com.
Spell that.
TIMACINC.com. And that's an A, Time Mac. I have to be careful about my accent. A for Apple. Yeah.
It sounds kind of like Apple, Mac, but okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you how I got that name, because the service that we provide, there's two attributes in accounting and auditing that are most important. The data that you're looking at, reports that you're looking at, should be timely and accurate. And if it's timely and accurate, you can make good decisions about your company. So that's how we got the name TIMAC, timely and accurate.
Well, that's very interesting.
That's such a great way to wrap up. And for those of you who are listening live, this will be released as a podcast. And we would love for you to check out the Ask Brien podcast on wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, Apple, Spotify. And Robin, do you have a parting thought for us?
I would say employ the best technologies, do what you love doing, and go for it.
Well, we do have about 45 seconds left, so the question is...
And if I can mention... Well, let me mention also Albany Farms, because that is a very exciting company. And just for the viewers, if they want to learn more about that company, they're going to be the largest... And then that was a client, and now I'm the CFO of that company. And they are going to be one of the largest manufacturer of ramen noodles. And that is a very exciting company. It's Albany, ALBANY, farms.com. So, they're innovating. They're looking at new ways of manufacturing ramen noodles. They also have the latest technology, the newest equipment, and, trying to bring trying to introduce some healthier ramen to the market as well. So please, to the viewers, have a look at that website as well.
Well, thank you very much, Robin.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but thank you very much. Traci, thank you very much. Robin, thank you very much. We'll have you back on again, Robin. You've been very insightful. We have more information that we want to get out, but thank you very much. You listen to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM, Ask Brien Show. Until next Thursday at 1 p.m., I know everyone's crying. You'll have to wait.